I keep forgetting to use this, so I'll begin by saying welcome. We'll begin this meeting, the board briefing meeting of the Board of Water Resources for Thursday, October 27th, 2022. Welcome everyone, the members of the board and others that are present in the room, the staff, and we're delighted to have everyone here this morning. It's going to be a long day, but a day of celebration as the Division of Water Resources and Board of Water Resources celebrates their 75th anniversary. So again, welcome. Let's begin by just introducing board members. I'll just go around the table here and indicate the board members that are present, and then ask Director Hossenjager if she will introduce the staff members present, and we'll go to that point. So, board members that are present, myself, Kyle Stevens, the chairman of the board, Blaine Ibsen, Norm Johnson, Charles Holmgren, Randy Crozier, Jim Lemon, Juliet Tenner. We excused Wayne Anderson today from our activities, from the board meeting and the activities this afternoon. His father passed away, and I believe the funeral services are being held today, and so Wayne is not able to be with us. But we offer our condolences to him and his family. So thank you. So Director Hossenjager, if you'll go ahead and introduce the others that are present.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. With us from the department is Executive Director Joel Ferry and Todd Adams. And then we also have Joel Williams, Todd Stonley, Shalene Bernardi, Aaron Austin, Summerdawn Shumway, Crystal Ross, Becky Holt, Tom Cox and his wife Diane, Randy Staker, Marisa Egbert, Stephen Gregerson, Russell Hadley, and we have Shannon Cloud doing the minutes for us. Thank you, Shannon. And then Paul Gedge and Carmen McDonald are making our AV possible. So really grateful for them.
Well, thank you. Again, welcome to everyone. I would like to take just a minute in terms of time to Director Ferry. He's able to be with us for our briefing meeting this morning, but has other commitments throughout the balance of the day and will not be able to be here. I just wanted to mention something. I don't know if Director Ferry knows this or not, but his grandfather, Cap Ferry, who was the Commissioner of Agriculture, I was appointed by him to be a division director in the Department of Agriculture in 1990 by his grandfather, Cap Ferry. So just mention that. So Director Ferry, go ahead.
Yeah. I'll come up here. I'll come up here. Thank you, Kyle, and it's a real pleasure to be with you today. Good stock comes out of these farm countries, and so thank you for the work you're doing, and it's just a real testament to the quality of people that we have here in the state of Utah. So I want to give our Deputy Director, Todd Adams, a few minutes to do a quick recognition. So Todd.
Thanks, Joel, and it's great to be back and great to see all of you. I'm excited to come back this afternoon and spend some time with you, but we're going to surprise one individual with a certificate of appreciation to Candace Hossenjager for being at the state for 15 years. They do these things. Sign them and appreciate the employees as they hit these milestones, and so we're going to surprise her today. So congratulations. 15 to 75, that's pretty good. So there you go.
Yay, Candace.
Congratulations. So yeah, thank you, Todd. And thank you, Candace, for the 15 years that you've dedicated here to water resources. You have made a difference, and it shows. So we like to recognize people that are excelling and doing a good job. And today I want to today is a day about water resources and about the organization, about the impact that this division has had on the state of Utah. And it's a meaningful impact, and it's long-term. You are the reason that we have the quality of life that we have. You're the reason that we're able to enjoy life, to be able to live in our communities, to be able to have the proper planning and foresight to prepare for what has come and what's going to come. When you look back, you think about 75 years ago, I didn't do the math, but that would have been 1947, right? State of Utah probably had 1 million people at that time, maybe less. And the growth that we've seen, the expansion of our communities, the quality of life improvements that we've seen just, I think, are incredible. And it all focuses and is based on these natural resources that we have, water being, I think, the most important. And so I want to thank you for the work you're doing. I know it's not easy, especially in these very difficult times. When there's a lot of water, it's a lot easier. And we haven't had that for since before Candace started. It's been.
There's no correlation.
I'm starting to think there might be 15. If it had been 20 years, I'd really be questioning, So, but it makes it that much more difficult, and we have to be so careful in how we manage and administer this important resource. And if we do it right, we'll get through this. There's enough to go around, but that's why we have to be so careful. And I think that as an organization, we need to be asking the tough questions. I think that we need to be evaluating what opportunities exist, but also, questioning it is what we've done in the past, what we need to do in the future, or should we be looking for new ways and new things to invest in, to develop, to look at additional conservation measures. I've been preaching this to Candace and Todd and others at the department. I think that we're masters of our own destiny, and we need to have that kind of vision and foresight to look forward and anticipate as best we can what's coming. Because if we don't make our future, someone else will make it for us. So we're either going to be makers or we're going to be takers. And I want to be a maker. I want to make our future. I want to make sure that we're forward thinking and we're looking at opportunities ahead of us. So thank you. I apologize I won't be able to be here with you this afternoon. Interestingly, kind of out of the blue this last week, the Deputy Secretary of Interior decided to come out, so he wants to talk about, or we're going to actually go out on Great Salt Lake. We're going to go look at some of our conservation measures that we put in place and just opportunities that exist for partnerships with the federal government. So ultimately, I apologize for not being here this afternoon, but just want you to know how appreciative I am of the work you do and how truly important it is. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Ferry, and appreciate your support. And again, thank you for the compliments to the board members and staff of the work that's being done. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I still remember '83. I don't know if you do.
I'll reminisce a little bit. I'll tell you, 1983, I was 5 years old. Okay.
Well, I understand.
I was a little guy, but I do remember it. And I'll tell you, so our farm sits right down there on the Bear, right where it kind of empties out towards the bird refuge in Great Salt Lake. And I can remember we have feed yards that we do. And one of our feed yards was down kind of in some of that lower ground. I remember as a kid going down there and the water was up into the feed yard. Like it was in, and there were these floating piles of manure, because we do these manure mounds, right? And I'd go out on there and it was squishy, you could jump on it. It was wild. It was a different time, I'll tell you. It turned me into the person I am today. But the one thing the lake did, it took out miles and miles of our fence because it was all pasture land down there too. And I remember as a kid going down there when the lake did finally receded and having to go out there with my grandpa, and we'd spend Saturdays and my job was to hammer in the staples and the wood posts. And he called me lightning because I could never strike the same place twice. Randy,
some of us that have started a water resource a long time ago, we remember when the pumps ran. We remember when they sat not high and dry on a hill and the water was lapping up to them. We had to bring a dredge to get water out. And so it's amazing to watch the seasons change or the hydrology change, and we're at the other end of that right now, so.
And, you know, and as I got involved in water just the day before yesterday, you know, it was talking a 30-year drought, and then it was talking 40-year, and now they're talking a 50. So, you know, maybe there is a light at the end of the tunnel somewhere. I don't know whether it's a triple light or the single light, but there is possibly a light at the end of the tunnel. So, but it's been some tough years, and those that are still in base agriculture, that raise livestock or crops, whatever the case might be. I mean, we ride this roller coaster. You know, I always said I couldn't afford to go to Vegas and gamble because I gambled too much every day of my life. Because if you're running livestock or whatever, I mean, it's always a gamble.
Well, Brandon, I think you're spot on there. And I'll tell you, you know, even with the growth that we've seen in population, our agriculture still is the main utilizer of water in the state. And that's a good thing. And so one of the objectives, I think, is in our roles is to help agriculture become drought resilient, to where they can still produce and survive using less. And then, you know, that gets us through these really difficult times. There's only, you know, conservation can only take us so far, but it can help. And new technologies and new opportunities exist. And, you know, one thing that I'm a big believer in is partnerships. And so Candace, we've been working closely with the Department of Agriculture to try to help with the expertise that we have in our division to help them in like their ag optimization program. How can we help you enhance that and improve that? How can we help in the data collection in the back end and coordination and those kind of things? What new technologies do we know about that we can help you guys implement? So, you know, it's difficult, but we're diligently working every day. Really, this is in the department, this is our number one focus. And, you know, hopefully we can get through this.
Well, we appreciate it, and I'm sure you remember when a 400-pound steer was a heavy steer that came off from a cow. You know, I mean, that used to was a heavy calf, and now if you're not weaning a 6+, well, you know, technology and
Genetics
and not only with your livestock, but with your crops and the ability to produce higher tonnage and utilize water, you know, more efficiently. I mean, agriculture still feeds the world, and the Lord didn't increase the land area, but He helped us learn how to manage and how to take care of it. And sometimes ag gets the black eye, but you know what? Agriculture producers, my hat's off to them. They do an unbelievable job with the circumstances they get to deal with.
I couldn't agree more. It's what powers our country. It's what powers our rural communities. It's what, you know, I like the saying, when you're full, you have lots of problems. When you're hungry, you have one, right? So in agriculture, you're gonna get me going on ag here. It's where my heart is, right? It's my background, it's my passion in life. And we've got to help our agriculture producers to get through this. Now, it's amazing, it's absolutely incredible. You bring up the technology and the new opportunities that exist. You know, we're able to do more today using less and feeding, you know, worldwide population has doubled in the last 50 years. We're able to do all that using less land, less resources, because of these investments that agriculture's made. So, you know, it's incredible. And we want to encourage that, we want to support that. And that's where I think this partnership is, right, between ag and water resources, between what you guys are doing, and you play a critical role in helping maintain, you know, put the investments out there, improve the water systems that we have. So absolutely.
Well, and I don't know just where it sits today, but I know a few years back that still over 50% of your livestock was being raised by less than 50 head herds in the United States, which was a real eye opener to me. I would have assumed that wouldn't be the case, but I assume it's probably slowly shifting. I mean, it just forces you to go to larger herds to survive. But I guess my hat's off to agriculture and what they've done to, I mean, we're the most spoiled people in the world, I'll be honest. We spend more on recreation than we do on food, even in today's world. And so, sometimes I think we tend to forget that. And if you compare us to the rest of the world, I don't care who you are, what your circumstances are in this nation, you're rich.
Yeah.
You totally are filthy rich, whether we like to admit it or not. We have been very, very blessed, even with the challenges that we deal with. But I appreciate
Very, very well said.
Thank you.
Thank you. And, hats off to our producers. Thank you.
Thanks to all of you for that dialogue and conversation, and certainly points us in the direction that we need to go, and points out the importance of agriculture and water and what we're doing here in the rural responsibility that we have as members of the board. So Director Berry, thank you for your support. Thank you for your being here, and good luck with your meeting later today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and best of luck to you today. Thank you. It's a big day. It's a really important day for water resources, so keep up the good work.
Thank you. And Candace, congratulations to you on your recognition and a little bit of surprise. So thank you for taking the time to make that part of our meeting today. Well, let's go ahead and continue on with the briefing meeting. If you'll turn to the agenda of the board meeting, that will be at 10 o'clock this morning. First item that we'll discuss there is approval of minutes. Have you had opportunity to review the minutes, and if so, any corrections?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Holmgren.
this is like a Navajo rug, I think. There has to be one small.
Love it.
On the last page of the general meeting minutes, the top of the page, it says effort to pay farmers to follow their land, and I believe that should be follow instead of follow. And I'm sure spell check.
Spell check that correct. Follow is spelled correctly, but follow.
Sometimes spell check will be, yeah.
It is not.
That was the only correction I could see.
I did have one correction, and I've already given it to Shannon to correct. On my comments at the close, I spoke in circles there. And so there's some of that needs, if I actually said that, I apologize, because it was double speak and as you read through it over the division, those 75 years, you look back on 75 years, at the end of that 75 years, blah, 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 blah. I made some mistakes there. So anyway, I've given Shannon some corrections on that. Are there any other corrections to the minutes? If not, we'll address those in the board meeting then for a motion for approval. Okay, next items on the agenda are committal of funds, and Shalane, Marisa, whoever is going to handle or give us some direction on that, how we're going to handle those.
I'm gonna give you direction.
Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, I'm turning over to the agenda right now just to kind of look through that. So in general, what the plan is that grouping under committal of funds. All of those except for the West Cache, all of those are committal of funds for the loan portion of the secondary metering funding that was authorized, I think all of them in August. And they are all as authorized. Is that correct, Shalane?
Yes,
All of them are as authorized.
but they'll still be presented individually.
They will be presented individually. So the Tom and Russell show will be going. The Town of Annabella, RMO 26, that was Jacqueline's, and I don't know if anyone else. Yeah, Jacqueline is no longer at the division. She found another job in the private sector. So, yeah. I will also let the board members know soon after this board meeting, soon after today, who the new project managers are to cover hers. So the Town of Annabella, we had notes from her that they could possibly be on today's meeting. In catching up with them, they are not ready. It will probably be January actually, because that's a bond and they've still got a bunch of work to do on that. So Town of Annabella won't be on today. And as you can see, it will be Ben's.
So it's just being postponed, not withdrawn.
No, not being withdrawn, just not on today's,
Okay.
yeah, just postponed,
Okay.
yeah. And so all of those will be presented individually. And I'm just gonna talk here about in general. Now, when we go to authorization and committal of funds, those will be presented as a group as we did in August. The difference being that there's three different board members involved. Green Canyon from Charlie, Town of Springdale with Jim, and then the rest are Wayne's. So you would need a motion, someone to do Wayne's motions anyway.
And I've already talked to Juliet and she's prepared to take care of those, so she can.
But we're
so
presenting
she'll-
as a whole group.
So she'll just do the whole group.
Yeah.
Not just the Wasatch County.
Okay, and we have a list for it. Shalane's of course got that covered. So Ani, Baynard, she is the one that's been helping us. She and Grant have been helping us from the planning section. We teased her that she had a good chunk of those. And so Shalane thought it would be great for her to be the one to present those. So she will present them. That will be like we did in August, where we present the whole kit and caboodle. And we have a table on the PowerPoint for that one. A table just for that one, or for that grouping. And then we'll go into the special items. Each will be presented separately. Again, Tom and Russell have been very busy. Bluffdale City, does it actually need to be presented, Shalane?
No.
Okay. So Bluffdale City came to us for, originally requested both a grant and a loan. We did authorization committal funds for the grant. They have decided they don't need any more funding through a loan, through the bond process. So we're only withdrawing the loan portion of that. It's more of a formality for us. And so we won't have a presentation per se for that. We don't have a slide for it. Russell?
Yeah, individual special.
Yeah.
items and West Cache.
Yeah, those three. So Russell, do you want to Russell and Charlie, do you want to talk about West Cache? Just because that's one of the ones that's a little bit different than the others.
Right.
I don't know what that means, but okay.
Well, I don't know how many of you read through your packet about West Cache Irrigation Company. And I don't know what Russell will have to add to it, but they have approached me and they want to go above staff recommendation for a 30-year payback. They're requesting 35 years. They actually had additional requests, and I told them I didn't think I would be willing to present that. But anyway, they've run into some bidding that's been done in the last month. The bidding has gone way above what the engineer's estimate is. So they've got a huge payback coming to them. I'm aware of times, well, I've been on this board at least once when we've done 35 years on loan paybacks, and that's what they are requesting. I know it's a bit hypocritical of me to make this request after what happened at board meeting 2 sessions ago with Randy Crozier's proposal. And I have spoken to William Merkley at the Water Users Conference and asked him how Uinta Water Conservancy District was doing with their project. And he said they were able to get a 50-year loan from federal government. That was the good part. The bad part was it was 0.8% higher interest rate than we would have offered. So he said they were in fine shape, despite the discussion in the board meeting 2 sessions ago.
So
Anyway.
Charles, just a question on this. So
Yes.
So then is that in addition to the project with us, or that federal government loan takes the place of?
No, that was in addition to anything we had done. I remember at the time didn't have the federal money nailed down at the time. They had an application in, but it hadn't been approved at the time that Uinta Water Conservancy came before us. And they were approved, and 50-year payback was satisfactory for them. In addition, on the West Cache folks, these guys it's putting them up, I can't remember it in their documentation here. Their payback is gonna be almost $26 an acre just for this project, in addition to their $34 annual assessment for the rest of their canal system. Additionally, a lot of these guys who are hooking into this pressurized irrigation system are buying pivots, and so it's quite burdensome for them. And so that is their request, and I just told them I would bring that before the board for your discussion. Russell.
I think you did a great job.
And can I just mention, it's not just that they have the request for the longer term, because of the increased prices, the cost share, the percentage of the board's cost share goes down, but the amount goes up. Is that right? And then, they also got a, Department of Ag and Food grant for $500,000 that wasn't unauthorized
Correct.
portion.
Yeah, so they did
It's
get
over $1 million
additional.
now.
Oh, yeah.
And originally was estimated about $2 million, and it bid closer to $3 million. Caused some problems there, and now it's gotta come out of that C&D fund, so it's gotta be 1% interest now.
Yeah, and you know, we don't need enough, any more sad egg stories in my life, because we're crying on each other's shoulder, where I am all the time anyway, with rained on wheat that destroyed milling quality of our wheat harvest this year. And our production, at least on my farm, is, for some reason, is way down this year. I don't know if it's the high heat or what it was, but our prices are really high, and people are really complaining that I sell to, but I just don't have very much to sell either. So I'm not hitting any home runs this year, and I suspect these guys are as well. The dairymen are, and a lot of these guys are dairy, and their milk prices are just not keeping up with production costs.
Okay, so, given the fact they're going to be requesting 35 years as opposed to 30 years, which is the recommendation of staff, what's the board feeling relative to that, addressing that request?
Are they gonna be here?
I don't know.
We've got them marked down as being online, that whether or not they're gonna be here.
They're actually gonna drive down, but, this is the weather.
So Mike Spackman is gonna be here, or online, I mean,
Yes, online, we'll see.
okay,
They're gonna be in, their engineer's office, so we'll see.
okay. And who is Mike again? He's the, vice
He's
president.
the vice president, but this affects his particular area of the canal system, so that's why he's more heavily involved than the president is. And
So if I can clarify, I need to bring it up to just make sure it's clear. So because they're having to request a higher amount from the board, this is not, instead of coming from the revolving construction fund at 0%, it now has to come from the conservation development fund, so it's at 1%.
So, so what was the original repayment that was planned before the bids came in as high as they did compared to what it is today?
If you look under the cost sharing estimate, it says the purchase agreement, so the original was, payment was $31,400 for, a payment of $31,400 for 30 years. And if we keep it at the 30 years, but the, increased cost, it'd be $51,100, so almost $20,000, two-thirds going up. And their request is 35 years for $44,900 annually.
Well, I certainly can see there's extenuating circumstances and I don't have a problem with trying to help them get through these challenges. You know, I know we have board policy and we try to stick with it, but I think we do have to look at it on an individual case-to-case basis. So I personally, in the light of it going from 31 to 51, I personally don't have any issue myself.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, Marisa, back to you.
Almost double the time.
And just kind of, just for formalities too, Russell and Tom, as they're presenting individually, and then Anya, she's presenting the group, I think we'll be using the podium up there at the front for them, so your viewpoint, will have the PowerPoint up on the screen, I believe, hopefully. And so you don't have to keep, well, turn your chair. We talked, like Paul and Joel and I really even talked about hey, are there wheels on the chairs? So and they can turn. So yeah, we didn't want you to have to look this way then that way. And there might be some applicants that are here at some point sitting here, but let's make sure on that. So then what we'll end up doing is going to, sorry, jumping back and forth. And then I don't know, Kyle, Russell, Tom, if any of those committal of funds for those that have already been authorized from Lehigh City down to Springdale Consolidated, and maybe, is it Springdale that maybe we wanna? So I don't know if there's any questions about any of those.
No, that's.
Yeah, Springwood. Russell, do you wanna come sit here? Because we need you on the mic if you speak. Sorry.
So I don't know if you wanted a little bit of update on some of the progress on some of the projects, but I don't know if this was gonna be brought up later, but we're actually processing the first tier request out of the grant funds for the Davis Weaver project. They've purchased materials, so we're in the process of reimbursing them.
Woohoo!
Money's going out the door. So as far as Lehigh goes, they're getting ready to start construction. Bountiful Irrigation District, they just opened bids this last week, so things are starting to move along.
What did their bids look like?
They look like they're in line with what we were thinking. It's it's a $2.6 million contractor bid, or bid for, I think it's just 1 year's work, so about 2,000 meters. At least those are in the ballpark.
So did they have to put any escalation clauses in it for fuel or anything, or was it any clauses in it, or do you know?
I'm not sure, but it's only to cover 1 year. So they're gonna be redoing it or doing another one every year, so it can be adjusted yearly. And I know in Lehigh's case, I didn't actually see the bid amount, but their contract with the contractor covers 2 years with the option of renegotiating after 2 years. We'll just see how they come in.
I was just curious in this bidding climate and the unknowns that are out there, just wondered.
Right. So,
Tom on Lehigh, and I don't know, sorry to interrupt. I don't know if the public meeting, if you want to summarize anything or not.
Tuesday evening, I went down to Lehigh because on bond projects where they're required to have a public hearing on the funding. To be honest, I was very disappointed. I didn't want to be lynched, like.
Whoa.
Because we've been getting comments in the mail from their water users, and have probably 150 or so comments, and most of them are marked not in favor of the funding. I think most of that's because they didn't understand that the city's required to do the project. And I don't know if they understood that 70% of the project would be covered by grant either, so. In hindsight, the next request for comments from the public that they send out, I'm gonna make sure, at least on mine, that they include that it's required by law and that 70% will be covered. So I think that would have eliminated a lot of the negative comments from Lehigh. But the stockholders meeting in Cache County, I went to a couple months ago. No, we were talking about a town of 2,500 people. We were talking about 500 meters. They had to go and get the shareholders to pass the resolution for the company officer to sign the funding agreement for the loan. We had 200 people plus standing remotely in an elementary sized school gym that were, I won't say irate, I say concerned citizens. But there are definitely some vocal minority that were speaking up with a range of comments from Utah Constitution doesn't allow the government to control our water to let's not put them in and we'll just pay the penalty that the law requires. So
I thought that was only in Box Elder County.
the lame us travel back and forth. Maybe they just look for all the public meetings and they get them all, I don't know. But those are I think, on my projects with the kind of an update. On the second section, the authorization and committal of funds for the grant funds on the round 2. My town of Springdale one is a little bit different. All the others are for upcoming work. The town of Springdale have already put in their meters, and so they're asking for reimbursement for what they've done. They started in February of 2021 to do the work, and the law only allows us to cover work that's been done after March 3rd of 2021. So I had to look at all their invoices and say, well, that was done before March 3rd or March 3rd, and kind of come up with an estimate. So that's the number you see in the report is based on 70% of my estimated cost of the work that they've done after the deadline, the beginning that the bill allows. So that's the only thing that's different on that one.
What drove them to install the meters? gonna say ahead of time, but that's not correct. Just I'm curious as to what, drove them to install meters.
I think, well, it's the southern Utah for one thing, they don't have storage on their system, it's just direct, diversion from the river. And so they have shortages all the time. They could see the writing on the wall with the previous house, was it House Bill 52 or Senate Bill 52 a couple of years ago, requiring meters on the new one, so they just decided it was coming anyway, so they would do that.
So what portion of their project then was not able to be covered? Do you have a feel for that?
Yeah, the application was actually showed the total project amount was $224,000, and my report, I estimated about 128,000 qualifies. So most of the engineering work, part of the meter purchase, and their first contractor billing covered February and March. So I kind of had to estimate what work was done. So about half of that was included in the eligible part.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Russell.
Roy Water Conservancy District. They've been installing meters for a couple of years now, requiring developers to install meters on new subdivisions. And we've been had the conference call for the bond. They're ready to go. They're moving on things. They're just hoping to get committed their funds today so they can get their $3,643,000 and get their grant money and get going on it next spring. With construction, they want to bond this winter.
Are they part of the group that is working and purchasing the meters with a kind of a co-op?
With Weaver.
Basin?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to be using their telemetry system to renting, paying them a fee every year.
Rather than meet the requirements of reporting, they're gonna just tag onto their system as opposed to implementing something totally separate.
Use their existing telemetry system.
I think a lot of the groups up there are. I know my South Weaver folks are. Biggs Weaver does that. A lot of them piggyback on Weaver basins.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Marisa, you need to come back to that. Any other projects here to review?
No, I mean,
Maybe
like,
while they're up there, you could discuss if there are any of the special items that you have questions.
yeah, well, and let's just go back. Do the board members have any questions about any in the committal of funds group or the authorization of committal of funds group?
One question, in the Weaver Box Elder Conservation District, it lists me as the board member there, and it should be Kyle, but
Is it still?
I'd be, if somebody needs to make a motion, Kyle's busy already, so. Whatever we need to do there, I'm fine with that.
And is that the RMO 19?
Yes,
Okay.
that one.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so,
It's okay, sometimes Box Elder gets associated with me for some reason.
Okay, so no others on those first two groups? And then let's just, the special items, Tom, you wanna talk about Central Utah?
Yeah, the first one is RE 399. It's a Central Utah Water Conservancy District sponsored project up in Weaver City. About 4 or 5 years ago, they came to the board for funding to enclose or concrete line part of the Timpanogos Canal that's just south of Jordan Reservoir up there that runs along the hillside. And also part of the project was to enlarge and line a couple of their regulated ponds for their irrigation system. So the canal project went fine. I think they actually came in under bid. And that's the older days when projects used to do that. But the pond projects took a little bit longer. But it ended up being a good thing because places where their ponds are, right close, they were doing some development, so they needed to get rid of some clay that was right there. So that clay ended up being donated to the project, and the county offered their equipment to haul that clay. So that project came way under budget. So the district is ready to line some more sections of that canal, and they're just asking for an expansion of scope so they can use the already committed funds and bonded funds for, to line another 1,400 feet of the Timpanogos Canal. That's what we'll be here to ask for today. Any questions on that? Any issue with them using 1.1 million of already bonded funds?
And that's, again, one of Wayne's, so Juliet, if you will, plan to take care of that motion. So any questions on, I think it's a good thing, anytime we've got some money left over and they can continue to advance the project and meet the needs there, that's a good thing.
And Roger Pearson from their area manager up there will be attending the meeting in person, so if you have any questions, then they can address that. Normally, they wouldn't be required to be here, but he will be for the party this afternoon anyway, so. And he has dealings with a lot of the new round 2 meter project up there too, that the district is helping out with funding up there.
Well, we had an opportunity to see, I'm sure, a similar project, as part of the board tour down there in September, so. Good, okay. All right, next one.
The next one is RE 416, that's a Davis Weaver County's Canal Company project. One of the many we're funding them. That particular one is installation of a pressure boosting station in Kaysville, just below Kaysville on the reservoir that they use for their secondary system. That project took a long time to develop. They had a hard time tracking down a parcel for their pump station. They had several different options, so the reason the cost estimate is so high because we were looking at the worst case scenario as far as funding goes. They ended up, after a year or so, tracking down a parcel, and the contractor they hired took his own sweet time in finishing the project too. So normally the contract says that their first full payment would be due this December, but their project is still not complete. They were able to use part of the funds this year to supply their system, but they're going to be here today to ask for a 1-year delay in making their first full payment. And they will make an interest-only payment this fall if the board agrees to that.
And I have had discussions with Rick Smith and Scott Paxman relative to that, and I don't have any issues or concerns relative to their request.
And they will be here in person too to answer any questions for us.
Okay. Sunrise and Bench Creek, up in Woodland. This is another one of Wayne's projects. So these are the buffalo ranchers and chokecherry farmers. And they can be replacing 7,800 feet of pipe and a new inlet structure. And this project, again, a bit higher than what was originally estimated. But they got a $500,000 grant additionally, since they're authorized, from Department of Agriculture and Food. So that means their actual request from the board has decreased by $102,000 less. Anyway, so terms would stay the same, except the payments would be going from $23,200 down to $19,200. at 25 years and 0% interest. And the company will be at the meeting.
Okay,
Virtually.
virtually, okay. This is one that when I very first came in, I questioned Russell on it because Woodland I've always understood was in Summit County. I come to find out it's divided in parts in Wasatch and parts in Summit, so
Yes.
it is
Pipeline
rightfully designated.
is in Wasatch.
Okay,
It's on the other side of the river.
yeah. Okay, and then the next one is Bluffdale City, actually withdrawing their loan application, so. And new applications, then we have a new application, again, Davis Weaver County Canal Company and Newton Water Users, Association. So, Tom, anything to mention on, Davis County, or Davis Weaver?
Well, it's just another one from them. They either have canal enclosure projects or secondary system projects. So this one's a canal enclosure. They're looking at enclosing about 1,370 feet of the Davis Weaver Canal. This is just west of Hill Air Force Base. It's the little section there. So just they have their canal management plan and they're slowly, bit by bit, improving sections of canals. They have the funds. They are getting a water smart grant on that project.
Okay. And again, they're being very proactive. That's one that you recall a couple of years ago when we had the board tour, we toured, part of their project where they were lining and or putting the canal in box culverts and such. And as Tom indicated, it's just another segment of their long-term projections for improvement there. Not only a public, well, it has a huge public safety component attached to it too, because of the residential areas that they're going through and such, so. Okay, Newton Water Users. Dan is not
Dan's
here.
not here, I can,
I
Okay,
could actually tell you too. It's an extension of their secondary system, a pipeline going into existing, some new neighborhoods, I believe they could be. But it's just a secondary line continuing on.
okay, anything additional to add to that?
They already have plans done for it.
Stop.
So there you go.
Ready to move forward. Okay,
so as long as Davis Weaver Canal Companies and Newton Water Users continue to request funding, we have made a side agreement unbeknownst to Russell and Tom that they cannot retire until those applications stop.
ah, okay. Well, looks like your looks like your employment is secure.
But you'll notice it isn't my project.
That can be changed.
And I think Davis Weaver's getting tired of me too. Hopefully, they're hoping that new guy will give them better terms.
Okay, well, thank you. Again, staff does a tremendous job, and we appreciate all the extra time and effort to hear you indicate you have to go to some of these night meetings and participate in these public hearing processes and stuff, and be the brunt of the outrage and such. We, I don't know if you get hazardous duty pay for that or not.
No, but in all and honesty, that it's a good thing, because it's just shows a lack of understanding, and it's our chance to let them express their feelings and us explain why things happen that way. It's just a transparent process.
So, again, thank you for your efforts. Okay, move to the next agenda item, and that is GSL Watershed Integrated Water Assessment Update. Todd?
Can I jump as you're walking up? Go for it. Because now I have a mic that travels with me. As Joel handed it to me. If you, Randy's not happy about that. So if you recall, we had a big statement that we read about all this secondary funding, about the House bill, and that I will be reading that after the first group, but before Ani.
So yes, after committal of funds, before the
At the
authorization.
beginning of the authorization. of the
Yeah,
funds.
because they're all new projects and we want to make sure that that's being stated and they all will be online. That's that second group, I was kind of going through where we're at. All of them, I don't know that any are coming in person, but they will all, they've been all told someone needs to be online.
Okay. Okay, now back to you, Todd.
Yeah, so during the board meeting, I'll be presenting an update on the assessment, integrated water assessment, and give a little background to the board. I'm sure we've talked a lot about it to you, but we have a contractor on board, Jacobs Engineering, to do the work plan part of that. And I'll just be giving some details of who's on their team and what are the main objectives of that assessment.
Okay, thank you. We'll look forward to that discussion. Director's report, Candace.
Good morning, members of the chairman and members of the board. I look forward to giving my director's report. There's a lot of ongoings. I feel like October's been the month of summits, so I'll have a brief report on the 4 summits that I attended and presented at each of them. So it was a busy month, and yeah, looking forward to November. Also talk about some of the big happenings on Great Salt Lake, Bear River, and the Colorado River.
I was expecting you to take longer, because I wouldn't put that piece of.
I can stall. So I actually, at a meeting, I was in Lake Tahoe for some salinity control forum meetings, and we actually needed to stall and not waste some time, but stall because they were having an issue with their mics. And so the chair was like, "Has anyone got a joke?" I'm like, "Well, I don't have a joke, but I have a story." So I took my 5-year-old nephew on his first mountain bike ride, which on this little single track trail through a little park. So it wasn't that intense. But like any 5-year-old, he gets going too fast, right? And he started riding bikes on one of those the push bikes, right? The pedals, without the pedals, they just like use their feet. So he's really good at putting his feet down and not using his pedals to brake. Anyways, he got going a little too fast, kind of veered into a tree. It was very sad. He was very tough and he didn't shed a tear. And my husband who was with me was like, "Are you okay, Blaine?" And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And he started pedaling again, and he kind of almost under his breath, he's like, "Except for where it hurts." we had to stop and make sure he was okay, but from the mouth of Biggs, right? So hopefully that gave you a little bit more time.
Okay, thank
You
you.
need to teach him one thing. Just tell him that if you tell himself, if I'd have done that yesterday, he'd feel better today.
There you go.
Or it'll feel better when it quits hurting. Okay, thank you. And I'll just, I've gone through this rather quickly. It's part of the agenda, and we have some time before the board meeting starts at.
But I don't wanna.
Thank you for keeping me straight. Okay, so we'll go back to the information on the board then.
Great. So right off, I wanted to introduce or have Summer Dawn Shumway introduced 2 of her new employees. We have Crystal Ross and Becky Holt. And you guys, they may look familiar faces because they actually did attend the board tour with us. So you did probably meet them last month, but we want to give a formal introduction. Summer, do you want to bring your
This and head over there since there's 3 of us. All right.
Yeah.
Follow me.
Come on up. Crystal and Becky.
normally sit right here. Where did you get it from, Joel, or is it on this?
Right, wherever we should
Oh, it stays. I was like expecting this morning.
And I guess I can turn it on, huh? After Paul gave us a stern speech about green means on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and read both of their bios and then allow them an opportunity to add anything that maybe we forgot. And then you'll all have an opportunity to ask them any questions you might have. But I realize this is my first time meeting all of you other than the few we met at the board meeting because I started working for the division literally the week we got sent home for COVID. Yeah, so I always joke that my best friend was the printed out directory that we used to have because people were emailing me and I was like, who is that, what section are they in? Like, do they even work for us? Like, so it's great to see people in person. As Candace said, I'm Summer Dawn and I'm the manager of our newly formed Web, IT, and Communication section, which we've tried shortening to WITCOM. Kind of catchy, doesn't shorten it a whole lot, but at least a little bit. All right, so first of all, I'm going to talk about Crystal. This is Crystal Ross. Crystal Ross is a passionate storyteller and lover of all things outdoors. After receiving a degree in creative writing, she joined the outreach team at the Division of Wildlife Resources, where she built a strong social media following for the agency. Working in the field, learning wildlife management and highlighting critical projects was an exciting challenge that helped her grow her skill set and also gave the public a behind-the-scenes look at the complexities of that work. Crystal received several accolades during her 10 years at Wildlife, and most recently, the DNR Community Outreach Award. I remember when I got that. Now that she has joined us at the Division of Water Resources, she has enjoyed diving into the world of water. She's good at puns, diving in, get it? It took me a couple times reading through this, and I was like, oh, diving, I get it. Yeah. I'm a little slow sometimes. She is helping refine our division's online voice, tell our stories, and educate Utahns on the work that is happening to protect our precious resources. In her free time, Crystal enjoys rock hounding, photography, camping, hiking, biking, gardening, and exploring the outdoors with her family. Next, we have Becky Holt. Becky Holt is a Utah native, lover of language and nature. She graduated from Weber State University as valedictorian for the College of Science with bachelor's, that's plural, degrees in botany and technical writing. Her employment history has ranged from conservation and agricultural research to website management and education, but through it all, communication has been her passion. She received multiple accolades as an e-learning writer for her ability to efficiently wrangle complex subjects into content that was useful and engaging for any audience. She's thrilled to join the Division of Water Resources and to assist in all aspects of the new WITCOM section, from web updates to IT management and assisting with our division's internal and external communications. In her free time, she reads, writes, and rhapsodizes about plants. And it's true, she does. She rhapsodizes. Did we forget anything? Anything you want to add? Do you like that we're all staring at you? Do any of you have any questions for Becky or Crystal? We'll make it easy then. We're done. Thank you. And happy 75th.
No questions, but just welcome aboard. Look forward to your good work and helping to further the cause and the mission of the division. So thank you.
Thank you, Summer and Crystal and Becky. So glad to have you. As I often say, you know, our best and resource is our staff and how meaningful the work that each of them does and the difference that they make. And we are excited to welcome them to our team. And they've already made great strides. And, you know, Crystal's been doing a great job at our social media and also helping with just getting information out there and creation of content. And Becky has also been working with Summer to make sure the office runs smoothly and helping to collect or to order all the IT stuff and she's been writing and they're both doing a great job. So really grateful for them. So next up, we have our status of funds report. Shalane?
Good morning. Yes, and Becky's also helped with the website, so updating about all of the board's information, board meeting stuff. She's helped us stay on top of that. In fact, remind us when something's due and we didn't get it done. So on the status of funds, there's not been a whole lot of change since September, but you can see we are moving right along. We do have a couple things to note there, summarize the projects, what they're doing to the status of funds. Revolving fund doesn't have a lot in it. Some, 7 million, if everything gets contracted, that's committed. Nothing much is happening in the city's water loan fund. So we do have, I think we discussed last time, a new application from Morgan City. So when that comes to the board, we will consider that from here. So there is that. But there is some motion, as you can see, in the C&D fund as we work on these secondary meter loans. You can see we got that first one contracted with Davis and Weaver County's Canal Company. They're the ones we presented to you for authorization and committal of both their grant and loan in August. And so we've got them through the process, committed, and as Tom said, got that first pay request for both the grant and the loan going this week. So excited to have things moving. And then, there's still plenty of other projects that are authorized there, that if they start to move, that 36 million for Provo City, I'll take a nice chunk of your C&D funds. And then the one I think we're all so excited about is to see those 12 grant contracts actually completed for secondary meter grants. And so $60 million in contracts ready to go now, and several more on the way. But it seems like every day I get an email or two that has a batch of 4 or 5 grant contracts that needs my approval. So they are moving. We've got our process sorted out and getting it done so we can get these going. And so with what's been authorized and committed and what will come before you today, you can see there of the secondary meter funds, we've still got about $58 million still to be spent. So I don't know if you want me to just go ahead and jump into the third round now. Go ahead and update you on what our plans are for the third round of the secondary meter grants. We are going to open the application period on November 21st, and it will run through January 6th. So I know the holidays aren't necessarily the best time to try to get things done, but for us, it might be tough to try to compile applications and put information together. But for an applicant who only has one application to worry about, we figured this gives them, a month and a half or so to figure it out.
Shalane, what were those dates again?
November 21st through January 6th.
Thank you.
And we figure by doing it that way, we'll have time to get those new projects assigned. And then, this should be fun, we'll plan to present them to you at the March meeting after water users in St. George. We also are going to make a concerted effort this time to reach a lot more providers. We're not just going to post on the website. We're going to send notice through Water Users Association, through Rural Water Users Association, and through all of the providers that we can find listed in water rates database, and that we've got Jack Heinzman in our office has been working to compile a list of secondary water providers. So everything he's got, we are going to reach out and let them know this is available, please apply.
Can I add to that?
Sure.
And I just want to make sure, on the list that Jack in our office has been working with Brandon Miller in water rights, those are mailing addresses that we have. The plan with water users in your rural water was to have them send an email to their email list, not necessarily a mailing. Is that do we feel comfortable with that?
And I want to add, the reason Marisa and I discussed this and are asking Carly Burton and Dale Pearson with Rural Waters to send the email that we craft is so that they aren't getting some random thing that they can ignore.
From
It
me,
it
they
will
don't
be,
know.
it will be from an organization, a person that they know and recognize, and hopefully we'll get more response from.
Would there, thought just occurred to me, would there be any value in sending that or making contact with Utah League of Cities and Towns? Is there any, would there be any connection
Could do that,
there,
so,
where they could extend, information as well?
and again, what we could do is ask them to send it, be the ones to send it, so.
Yep, so we're hoping to get that out within the next couple of weeks
I would hope next week, even, once things settle down from today.
and get the website updated with those dates when the application will be available. And, we also, I don't know how much we've discussed it here, the $10 million cap that has existed for some of those larger providers. We have two pots of money. The 50 million that operates according to your rules and the 200 million that's governed by the law came in two separate pots, and our attorney has confirmed that, yes, we can, a provider can receive funds from both. So we also intend to reach out to those large providers and say, you can submit another application. Now, if that means if we get a lot more in this third round, we'll be subject to priority rankings. But those exist, and we'll do what we have to do. We have requested additional funds from the legislature. They don't meet, of course, until early next year, but we have asked for additional funds to hopefully pay for every meter that's needed in the state. So a lot of it is wait and see what the higher ups decide to do. But we are going to do our part to get the word out as much as possible.
Do you have a feel for organizations that have already submitted requests or are involved in the $10 million cap that will be requesting additional funds?
Yes,
I'm aware of one, but.
right.
They're on the agenda.
Yeah, we all know Lehigh has submitted another application. Their project is even more than 20 million, still won't fund all of their meters. But yes, there are several entities that we know that, and Davis and Weaver, Rick Smith is one who has asked, are you sure we can apply again? Are you sure we can apply again? We keep telling them, yes, you'll be able to apply again. So a lot of the Weaver County ones, Kyle, I think the ones in your area have maxed out and would apply again if they knew they could get additional funds.
And so will that $5 million additional come out of the $50 million pot? And so you'll be limited or restricted with using that
Right,
for that purpose.
right.
Okay.
And there will be a priority with that, sorry.
And I was just gonna add, I think it is also our intention to prioritize those that have received no funds prior to those big ones. And this is one of the reasons why, Shalane's staff and Marisa are working so hard to get the word out there, to make sure that we have, let everyone know. We did do conferences and we did, update our website, and we did press releases in our prior efforts to get the word out. So it's not like we didn't try.
Right.
We're just putting in an additional effort to make sure people know that funding is available, and that we are opening it up as well to entities who've already reached their maximum.
Yeah. We can fund, that 58 million. Most of these rural providers need a lot less than that, 5 or 10 million. You'll see the ones before you today are in the what, 168, 396,000. So a lot smaller systems need a lot less money. 78,400 is one today. So that money can stretch pretty far with the smaller rural providers, but,
The ones that you're gonna see what you might think on some of the motions are a copy and paste, and maybe we forgot to change the numbers. A lot of those, like Lehigh and such, they have the same numbers. Tom and Russell worked to, only ask for the amount of money they needed for that. They said, okay, you can get 10 million in grant, how many meters would that be? With the idea that, so all those repayments are the same on their bonds. So you'll notice that is not a copy and paste, and we forgot to fix a number. Also, something that we are keeping track of, Water Development Committee, the interim.
sure.
Yeah, we listened in, I guess Joel was there. There's discussion from that committee to look at the legislation for secondary meters. And I think most of the concern was rural and the companies can, or towns can, there is a way to go exempt. For example, this was not in the committee meeting, Lowatown that I'm working with, they're trying to figure out what to do. There's a lot of complications for them, who owns the pipeline, but who owns the water, the irrigation company, the town. The one connection goes to the lawn and garden and to the pasture out back. The exemption that allows them to be exempt from having to put meters, but they cannot add any secondary connections after that. So the question is, now does it have to go to culinary? And so that's a concern for LOA. They said, we can't handle that for our culinary system. So it's some of those things, and I know the committee discussed, or commission, they're gonna be looking at some of those things. There were some concerns by which town? Aurora and someone else. And so it was a pretty long discussion. So just be aware of that. And, Lowatown, I talked to them about that and said, let's kind of wait, and you can wait and see a little bit because the grant money's already been set aside for you. So just be aware that we're keeping track of that.
That's all?
Any questions on the status of funds or the secondary meter? Third application period. All good? Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Candace.
Great. We just have one last item as information, or two last things as information to the board. We have been meeting the Division of Water Resources as well as the Department of Natural Resources with Washington County Water Conservancy District. And this is really in regards to Lake Powell Pipeline. And considering, like the entire Colorado River community, Washington County faces ongoing shortages and a declining water supply. The state of Utah and Washington County are moving aggressively to develop all of their local water resources through conservation, reuse, potentially even desalinization of the Liverpool hot springs, and agricultural optimization. After full implementation of these aggressive water conservation measures and projects, the state and Washington County remain committed to maintaining Lake Powell Pipeline as a component of its long-term water resources plan, consistent with future hydrologic conditions on the Colorado River and future water agreements with the basin states. So we know of the continued drought on the Colorado River, and we're seeing levels in Lake Powell and Lake Mead that we have not ever experienced before. At least when they were filling, we did, but not like this last drought. The current drought that we're in is estimated to be the worst in 1,200 year period. And when you look back at tree readings, so I think all of the basin states are trying to wrangle with how do we continue to live and survive and deal with the crisis crisis on the river. So I just wanted you guys to be aware of the focus to look at the local water sources within Washington County. And that being said, that Lake Powell pipeline will be maintained as our kind of long-term water planning effort. So that is that one. And then one other, just to make sure it's on your calendars, our December board meeting is December 6th. We'll also have our board luncheon, so our holiday party. So it will likely have a similar format, meet at 8 o'clock, and then probably the board meeting will go at 10, and then after that, we'll meet for lunch. It will still be at Rodizio, is where we reserved, so the last couple of years we've been going there. So we'll do that again. But yeah, happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
Any questions of Candace? Okay, thank you. Again, a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak, with the work that's going on with water resources. Any other items to discuss?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Whoops. I had an interesting phone call yesterday, and the only reason I got the phone call was, I guess the website still lists me as the chairman. Anyway.
Well, I'm glad you got the phone call.
Yeah. And it was good. But a gentleman from Jim's area called me, and he represents a group in Washington County, and they want to proceed with something similar to the water banking application, and I didn't know where to turn him.
It's a great question. So Shalane is our point of contact for water banking questions in the office. You could also provide, if you have their contact information, to Shalane, and she can reach out to them, whichever you prefer, Charles.
Thank you.
That brings up a good question. With all the changes that have taken place within the division, perhaps it would be a good idea to just kind of go through and list the individuals who have the responsibilities. And so that when we get phone calls like that, we don't have to, don't say, well, I don't know. We can act a little more intelligent and have some information in front of us to appropriately refer them. So.
That's a great suggestion, and Director Ferry made a similar one, so we are gonna work on that. That's a great suggestion.
This time of year, you just don't know if you want to answer any phone calls.
So I had the opposite problem. My spam filter's so good that it filters out people that are legitimately calling me. I had an interview, and the news station that was trying to call me couldn't get through because it kept getting forced to my spam filter. Like, sorry.
Unfortunately, okay.
Jim, you have a comment?
He sicked him on me. It was Ben Roosh. And I passed the information, tried to, but attorneys don't stay in their office much. So I left him a message of what to do and who to contact. And for my ag buddies on the north, just one comment. In one of the water meetings where they were talking about the percentage of use that's in agriculture and trying to conserve, one lady had a useful comment. She said, we don't need the farmers, we can just go to the store.
Yeah.
That's the solution.
They're ill-informed. Okay, if there aren't any other items, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved. I don't know that it requires a second or debate. We'll just declare the motion or the meeting adjourned until our board meeting at 10 o'clock. Thank you.